Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 6 top 10 waiver wire ads for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, I'm going to be going in depth talking about every single player ranked inside of my top 10 waiver wire ads of the week, as well as explaining why I believe that you guys should head on over to the waiver wire right now and pick these players up. But before we do get on into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you hit that like button. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my top 10 waiver wire ads of week number 6. We begin at number 10 with Hunter Renfrow, wide receiver of the Las Vegas Raiders, this week going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. Now, Hunter Renfrow is far from this sexy pickup that you add to your team and you're like, you know what, maybe this guy could get 25 plus points in this matchup, or really any matchup. That's not going to be the case with Hunter Renfrow, but what he does do every single week is be the definition of consistency for your roster. You throw him in as your wide receiver 2, you throw him in as your flex option, and you know that this guy is going to be seeing targets, he's going to catch the ball, and things probably are very unlikely to go completely opposite of the direction of Hunter Renfrow, meaning that things are probably not going to go bad when you play Hunter Renfrow. Last week he had 6 receptions on 8 targets for 56 yards up against the Chicago Bears. And I mind you, this was a game that the Las Vegas Raiders offense as a whole struggled immensely. This did not look like the Las Vegas Raiders team of the first couple of weeks of the season. I understand they didn't look all that great up against the Chargers in that Monday Night Football game, but they still looked a lot better than they looked up against the Chicago Bears. I expect the Raiders to have a bounce-back game this week up against a tougher Denver defense. I still think Hunter Renfrow is a very reliable option at the wide receiver position to continue to want to add onto your roster. I know I've talked about him over the last couple of weeks, but not enough people have added him at this point, so we're going to continue to talk about Hunter Renfrow until he's on more lineups, because like I said, I really do believe this guy is the definition of consistency. Next up at number 9, we have Amon-Ra St.Brown, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, all year, it has been a huge discussion on who the Detroit Lions wide receiver number 1 is. We've seen Khalil Raymond do it, we've seen Amon-Ra St.Brown do it, and we have seen Quintez Cephus do it. So it has been very confusing. It has been a rocky road all season at the wide receiver position for the Detroit Lions. The first 2 weeks of the season, the gates come out hot for TJ Hockenson. This man is on fire. And then the last 3 weeks of the season, in week 3, 4, and 5, the dude has been a complete and utter fucking disaster for your fantasy lineup. But you want to know who has been up and coming in this team the last 2 weeks? That has been Amon-Ra St.Brown, who's the leader in receptions for the Detroit Lions in the last 2 games. Week 5 up against the Minnesota Vikings in a crushing defeat. I'm talking about this defeat was so bad that Dan Campbell was crying after the game, which made me feel a little bad. 7 receptions in that game for Amon-Ra St.Brown on 8 targets for 65 receiving yards. Now, Amon-Ra St.Brown is way more risky than Hunter Renfrow, but every week the upside for Amon-Ra St.Brown being on a team that is just so bad that's going to have to be throwing the ball a lot late on in these games, that could lead to a lot more receptions for Amon-Ra St.Brown. Thus, he is my number 9 waiver wire ad on the week. Next up, we move to Khalil Herbert, running back of the Chicago Bears, going up against the Green Bay Packers this week. Even with Darrel Williams being the clear lead back after David Montgomery ended up getting hurt, he's going to be missing a couple of games. Maybe it is a elongated injury and it takes a lot longer, but right now the timetables are a little bit unclear, so you could potentially use Khalil Herbert for at least the next couple of weeks. Herbert right now is still in a position to succeed even if Darrel Williams is ahead of him, because he was the leading rusher on the team last week, not Darrel Williams. He rushed 18 times for 75 yards up against the Raiders. Now again, like when I was talking about Hunter Renfrow, things went bad for the Raiders offensively, things went bad for the Raiders defensively. They got a train ran on them by an offense that isn't all that great in the Chicago Bears. So I do expect Khalil Herbert to go a little bit down to earth, but if something was to happen to Darrel Williams, knock on wood, obviously we don't root for injuries, then Khalil Herbert would be in the perfect situation to have success up against the Green Bay Packers, and for the future, at least until David Montgomery returns. And even if nothing ends up happening to Darrel Williams. I think Khalil Herbert has kind of carved out a nice role in this offense. 18 rushes is nothing to scoff at. A lot of running backs would love to have 18 rushes, so maybe Khalil Herbert continues to be heavily utilized in this matchup up against the Green Bay Packers and for the future until David Montgomery returns, because once David Montgomery comes back, Darrel Williams as well as Khalil Herbert aren't really guys you're going to be looking to throw into your roster week in and week out. Next up, we move to Rondale Moore, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland this week. The Cleveland Browns had an all-time loss last week up against the LA Chargers on Sunday. That was a crazy game that the Browns ultimately lost. Does that mean the Browns defense is Swiss cheese, that they're going to be terrible here up against the Arizona Cardinals? Probably not, but the Arizona Cardinals offense looks unstoppable. Week 5 up against the San Francisco 49ers, Rondale Moore had 5 receptions on 6 targets for 59 yards, as well as having 3 rushes for 38 yards. So it's very clear that Rondale Moore is a key piece in this offense. But the reason why I'm not completely bullish, completely super excited to have Rondale Moore onto my roster, and why he's not higher up in the waiver wire rankings, is because I feel as though every single week you are really picking and choosing which wide receiver is going to be, and it is a very tough guess who's going to be the guy behind DeAndre Hopkins, because they have AJ Green. And while I personally didn't believe that AJ Green was going to reinvigorate his career from the Cincinnati Bengals here in Arizona, he appears to have a role in this offense. He could easily be the secondary receiver in that offense any given week. Same thing goes with Christian Kirk. Same thing goes with Rondale Moore. Now, maybe because the fears of Max Williams potentially missing the whole season with an injury, maybe that helps out Rondale Moore and he is able to see more usage on the field. But based upon how this offense works, it's going to be very confusing week in and week out which wide receiver you want to slot in your lineup from the Arizona Cardinals that isn't named DeAndre Hopkins. So again, I like Rondale Moore. I believe he is a very talented player, and I believe he is in a very solid situation to succeed. But with all of the wide receivers around him, it does make things dicey every single week. But before we get on into the next player to be discussing in today's waiver wire video, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys an offer that is almost too good to be true. Thanks to our partnership with Yahoo, we have an exclusive deal that gets you guys 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be a new user to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link in the video description, deposit, and play. That's it. All you got to do is sign up in the video description, deposit, and play. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon to go ahead and get your 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. If you need immediate access because you want to play today, that's okay. Just email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up right now. Just to emphasize, this offer is for new Yahoo users only. If you're already a Yahoo user, then you will not be eligible for this promo. In addition, you can claim $10 free of entry credit on the site, which can be used to enter tonight's $150,000 Monday Night Baller. Make sure you use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Take advantage and join Yahoo Fantasy today. Back on into the waiver wire ads. Next up, we have Michael Carter, running back of the New York Jumbo Jets, going up against the bye week this week. So if you need a running back fill-in, don't pick up Michael Carter because he's not going to play. To me, right now it appears that he is the clear lead back for the Jumbo Jets. Now, how much does that mean? Obviously, it means something because he's the lead back on a team, but he's not the lead back on a team that you necessarily are ecstatic to have. But at the end of the day, with the amount of use he's gotten in this offense, with him clearly leapfrogging Ty Johnson, with him clearly leapfrogging Tevin Coleman, he is put in the perfect situation to have success for the rest of the season after the bye. Week 5 up against the Falcons in London, he had 10 rushes for 38 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as 3 receptions on 3 targets for 20 yards. So again, he's never going to be a running back that you're super duper excited to start, unless of course the Jets offense really does kind of find their stride and they start winning games and looking a lot better where they could run the ball a lot more effectively. But based upon how the team looks right now, Michael Carter is a guy that I want to get on my team because maybe a couple weeks from now, if that does end up happening and the Jets offense looks a lot better, then you are going to have to be paying a much higher price for Michael Carter. So next up, we got Marquez Callaway, wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints, going up against the bye week just like Michael Carter. So if you need a wide receiver fill-in this week, do not add Mr. Callaway, because he is not going to be playing. He has had 2 solid games in a row after absolutely eviscerating everyone who drafted him, excited about the praises of him being the wide receiver number 1 for the Saints in preseason. And the praises were true because he was the wide receiver 1 in the Jameis Winston-led New Orleans Saints offense with Michael Thomas out. But then, out of nowhere, Marquez Callaway kind of just fell asleep. He wasn't doing anything. But the last 2 weeks, he has shined bright like a diamond. Week 4 up against the New Orleans Saints 2 weeks ago, he had 2 receptions on 2 targets for 74 yards. So after that game, I told you guys, hey, go ahead and add Callaway, but don't get super duper excited because maybe things come crashing down to earth, right? If you only get 2 targets every single game, it's very unlikely that you're going to see 70 plus yards every single game. But at week number 5 up against the Washington football team for the Saints, Callaway had 4 receptions on 8 targets for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. It seems like Sean Payton is starting to understand what he needs to do with Jameis Winston. And what you need to do is let the man cook. Let the man uncork these crazy passes 7,000 yards down the field and let him throw them to Callaway. You want to know why? Because Callaway is ultra fast. He's going to be open, and you just got to let Jameis cook. You got to let Jameis throw the football, and if that continues to be the trend for the Saints, then Callaway could be a dangerous start into your lineup every single week with so much upside. Next up, we move to another running back, Alex Collins, running back of the Seattle Seahawks, going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Now, this is just a tentative ad in case Chris Carson is not good to go again in week number 6. Pete Carroll said it's too early to tell at this point if Carson will end up playing or not, and it is very unlikely that you will know tomorrow if that is the case as well. Now, Alex Collins doesn't look like Chris Carson. He isn't playing as well as Chris Carson would in this scenario if he was healthy for the Seattle Seahawks, but to me, he is still the clear number 1 lead back in Seattle when Carson is gone. He had 15 rushes for 47 yards. Last week up against the Rams in that primetime game, he also had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 25 yards. So I don't expect Alex Collins to be like this top 12 running back every single week when Chris Carson is out. But I do expect him to be an all-right fill-in, especially if you are someone who has Chris Carson on your team. Next up, we got Kadarius Toney, wide receiver of the New York Football Giants, going up against the LA Rams this week. Even if Slayton, Shepard, and Kenny Golladay return, you almost have to believe that Toney will have a much stronger role in this offense because of the 2 games that he's played recently when all those guys were hurt. Now, I personally was not a huge believer of Kadarius Toney because everything coming out about Kadarius Toney is that this guy was just a complete reach of a pick by the Giants, that this guy is not doing any good, he's banged up, blah, 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 and then just out of nowhere, Kadarius Toney looks like the second coming of fucking Randy Moss. Now, is he that? Of course not. But what I'm saying is this guy looks legitimately dangerous out there. Before his boxing matchup against Devontae Booker in the Cowboys game where he just fucking punched that guy for some reason, I don't remember exactly why he punched him, but there was a nice boxing fight going on the field on Sunday. Maybe that Fury versus Wilder fight had him feeling some type of way because he watched it the night before. You know, you never know what Mr. Toney was thinking, but I know what he was thinking during the game before he punched that guy. It was, get the ball in my hands, throw me the fucking ball because I'm gonna take it to the crib. He had 10 receptions on 13 targets for 189 yards. Now, he didn't find his way to the end zone, but that's just kind of a saying that I thought would fit well with how well Kadarius Toney played. Kadarius Toney was playing amazing. He also had 1 rush for 7 yards. And guess what he did in week number 4? He had 6 receptions on 9 targets, 6 of 9. Very nice, as Borat would say, for 78 yards and 1 rush for 1 yard. So it seems like they're going to give him 1 rush every single game. That Jason Garrett offense is excellent to get the ball into Kadarius Toney's hands, but in reality, Kadarius Toney appears to be the best waiver wire out of the week at the wide receiver position, and it's not even close. This guy seems like he is going to be a legit talent at the NFL level, and as long as Jason Garrett and Joe Judge figure out that, you know what, even when Shepard and Slayton and Golladay are all back, that we need to give this guy the ball, then he's going to be fine. I do worry, though, that Mike Longneck Glennon is going to be the starting quarterback because maybe Daniel Jones misses some time. That looked like a bad injury, but again, I think it was just a concussion, so he should be good to go for next week. But again, don't count me directly on that. Don't just recite that as the 100% truth, because I have yet to see anything about Daniel Jones. Next up, we move to another Giants player, Devontae Booker, running back of the Giants, going up against the LA Rams. Now, like I said before, Golladay ended up getting hurt in the game up against the Cowboys. You want to know who else got hurt? Saquon Barkley, as did Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley suffered a low left ankle sprain up against the Dallas Cowboys. Barkley is listed as week to week, meaning that he is guaranteed to miss this week up against the LA Rams, but he could come back shortly after, maybe in week 7 or 8. So don't go ahead and blow the whole fab wad on Devontae Booker. Unless you have Saquon Barkley and you have a shitty record, then in that case, just burn it all on Devontae Booker and hope that he plays well, because Devontae Booker is a solid backup. He was a solid backup last year for the Las Vegas Raiders. After Saquon Barkley ended up having that ankle sprain that just looked humongous, he had 16 rushes for 42 rushing yards for 1 touchdown, as well as 3 receptions on 4 targets for 16 yards and a touchdown. So Devontae Booker is clearly a fine running back. This matchup scares me a little bit up against the LA Rams, but I think Booker will be able to get it done. The kind of confusion with Booker is, how long will Barkley be out? Is this like a 1-week injury, or maybe he misses multiple weeks? Right now, again, we know he's going to be out this week up against the LA Rams, but we're just not too sure of how long out that is going to take for Saquon Barkley to return. Final player of today's video, the number one waiver wire ad of the week, Darrel Williams, running back of the Kansas City Chiefs. Facing the Washington football team this week in Washington, reports are that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mr. CH, will miss a few weeks with an MCL sprain suffered up against the Bills. So the timetable to return is much lengthier for Helaire when compared to Booker, which means that Darrel Williams, by proxy, is the better waiver wire ad because CH is going to be out for longer. Makes sense. You can play Williams for longer. Most likely, then you'll be able to play Booker as a starting running back. So up against the Buffalo Bills, after CH went down, he had 5 rushes for 27 rushing yards, 3 receptions on 5 targets for 18 yards. Now, you couldn't have expected a huge rushing load for Williams after, CH went down, because the Chiefs were looking like shit in that game. The Chiefs looked terrible up against the Buffalo Bills. They got dog-walked in that game. But at the end of the day, they're still a solid offense. They should be able to play well up against the Washington football team, and I expect Darrel Williams to be an easy start, a must-start running back this week up against the Washington football teams. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you do hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. I would appreciate it a ton. I love each and every single one of you guys. Thank you for watching the video, and as always, guys, good boy.